You ever get that feeling like, software testing is just this huge roadblock in your process?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's either taking way too long or eating up the budget, or even scarier, you're still left with those doubts even after it's done,
Well,
right before that big release.
oh, you're never really sure.
It's like a universal pain point in software development.
For sure.
But what if there was a way to turn that whole testing game on its head?
Oh, I like where this is going.
Well, that's exactly why we're here today, diving deep into something called testing as a service, or TaaS.
Right.
TaaS. It's not just about getting the testing done, it's about getting it done smarter.
It's more strategic.
Exactly. Think of it as a way to unlock some serious advantages and efficiencies in your development process.
And we've gone through a ton of material on this.
Oh, yeah.
Articles, research papers. We're not just going to define TaaS. We're going to really unpack it. Get into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly.
See how it actually changes the way we think about testing. And why it might be this game changer for your whole development cycle.
So let's break this down. What exactly is TaaS?
Okay, so in the simplest terms, TaaS is like handing over your software testing to the pros.
Outsourcing it.
Exactly. To a specialized team outside your company.
Makes sense.
And these guys, they live and breathe software testing. Their whole focus is simulating real-world scenarios and finding those bugs.
So they're not just like running some automated scripts and calling it a day.
No, they're way more in-depth than that.
Okay.
They bring this whole level of expertise and focus that's tough to match if you're trying to do everything in-house.
I see. So when does it make sense for a company to say, all right, we need to bring in the TaaS cavalry?
There are a few scenarios where it really makes sense.
Okay.
One is, maybe you just don't have the people internally to handle all the testing.
Not enough hands on deck.
Right. Or maybe you need a totally fresh perspective on your software.
Like an outsider's view?
Exactly.
Okay.
An external team can be more objective, no internal biases.
Right. Makes sense.
Of course, cost is a big factor too.
Always is.
And then there's the speed thing.
Yeah.
Everything's moving so fast these days.
Agile, DevOps, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. You got to get those releases out quickly, and TaaS can help you do that.
So it's about filling those skill gaps, getting an unbiased view,
For sure.
saving some cash, and hitting those deadlines.
You got it.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. Now, there's this test demand and test supply model that keeps popping up in the research. What's that all about?
Think of it like a marketplace.
Okay, I like that.
You've got your test demand, right? That's your company. You've got features you need to test.
New updates, bug fixes.
Exactly. And then you've got the TaaS providers on the other side. They're the test supply.
Okay.
And they've built this whole infrastructure to meet your demand.
Infrastructure, like what?
Well, they've got a web interface where you can manage everything.
Makes sense.
They've got this huge test infrastructure, virtual machines, devices, all in the cloud.
So they have all the tools ready to go.
Ready to go 24/7.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So they can run tests even when you're sleeping.
Makes sense.
It's all about connecting your testing needs with their capabilities.
Okay. Like a matchmaking service for software testing.
I like that analogy.
All right, so we've got the demand, we've got the supply.
Right.
But what kinds of testing are we actually talking about here?
So there are three main types of TaaS.
Okay, let's hear them.
You've got functional testing, performance testing, and security testing.
So with functional testing, what are we looking at there?
That's all about making sure your software actually does what it's supposed to do.
Right, the basics.
Exactly. Does the user interface work properly?
Okay.
Have we introduced any new bugs with our latest code changes?
Regression testing.
Yep. And do all the different parts of the system work together smoothly?
Integration testing.
You got it. And then there's user acceptance testing, or UAT.
UAT, right.
Where real users test the software to see if it meets their needs.
Okay.
So functional testing, it's pretty broad,
Yeah.
but it's really about making sure the core features are working.
Okay, that makes sense. So next up, we've got performance testing.
Right. Performance testing is all about how your application handles the heat.
The heat.
Like when a ton of users are hitting it at the same time.
Okay, yeah, like during a big launch or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Will it stay responsive or will it just crash and burn?
Yeah, you don't want that.
No, you definitely don't. So performance TaaS simulates these heavy loads, looking for bottlenecks, and making sure your app can handle the pressure.
So like a stress test for your software.
Exactly.
And then finally, we have security testing.
Right. This is the bodyguard of TaaS.
Keeping everything safe and sound.
Exactly. Security testing scans your applications and websites for any weak points that hackers could exploit.
So they're looking for vulnerabilities.
Yeah, they're trying to find those security holes before the bad guys do.
Okay, so that's how TaaS can protect your data and your system. Makes sense. So we've covered the main types, but let's dive a little deeper. What are some of the features that make TaaS so powerful?
Well, one of the coolest things is the self-service portal.
Okay,
It's basically your command center for testing.
I like it.
You log in, you set up your tests, you run them, you get the results, all in one place.
So it's like very user-friendly.
Exactly. You don't need to be a tech whiz to use it.
That's good because I'm definitely not.
Me neither.
So we've got our command center. What else?
Then there's the test library. This is where you store all your testing assets.
Assets.
Yeah, like your test scripts, your data, all the important stuff.
So it's all organized and secure.
Exactly. And you can reuse these assets so you're not starting from scratch every time.
That's efficient.
Right. And then there's the way TaaS uses infrastructure.
Okay.
They leverage the cloud so they can be super efficient.
Right, the cloud. Everyone's talking about the cloud.
For a reason. It's amazing. You basically get access to a whole test lab on demand.
A whole lab.
Yeah. Different operating systems, browsers, network configurations, you name it, they've got it.
Wow. That's pretty powerful.
And it's all virtual, so you don't need to worry about setting up and maintaining all that hardware yourself.
That saves a lot of headaches, for sure.
Absolutely. And then there's the monitoring. TaaS doesn't just tell you if a test passed or failed.
Okay.
It helps you understand why.
So it gives you more insights.
Yeah. It can pinpoint bottlenecks and help you troubleshoot problems faster.
Okay. I'm liking this more and more.
Right. And then there's the pricing. You only pay for what you use.
Pay as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a utility.
Makes budgeting a lot easier.
Totally.
So you mentioned the cloud a few times. Is that where most TaaS happens?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The cloud is perfect for TaaS. It's scalable. It's on demand. It just works.
I'm seeing a theme here. So how does the whole process work?
Okay, so let's say you're building a new app.
Okay.
First, you figure out what you need to test. What are your scenarios?
Right. What do we want to make sure works?
Exactly. Then you design your test cases.
Okay. The specific tests we're going to run.
You got it. Then you pick a cloud provider that offers TaaS.
There are a few out there.
Yeah, there are a bunch. You set up your test environment on their platform,
Okay.
and then you start testing.
Easy as that.
Well, you also need to monitor the tests as they're running, make sure everything's on track,
It makes sense.
and that you get your results.
Data, insights, the whole shebang.
Exactly.
So we've talked about what TaaS is, the different types, the features, the process, but when does it really make the most sense to use it?
I'd say there are three main scenarios where TaaS shines.
Let's hear them.
First, if you're doing a lot of test automation,
Okay, makes sense.
TaaS can really streamline that whole process.
Especially if you need results quickly.
Absolutely. Speed is key. Second scenario is when you need some specialized skills that you just don't have in-house.
Right. Like a niche type of testing.
Exactly. And third, if your testing needs fluctuate a lot.
Like sometimes you need a ton of testing, sometimes not so much.
Yeah, TaaS is perfect for that. You can scale up or down as needed.
Okay, so flexibility is a big plus.
Huge plus.
Now, what about the benefits? Why should companies consider making the switch?
The benefits are pretty huge.
I'm all ears.
First of all, flexibility. You can test what you need when you need it.
Okay, we talked about that.
Then there's the cost savings. We're talking potentially 40 to 60% cheaper than doing everything in-house.
Whoa, that's significant. It is. Why such a big difference?
Well, you're not buying hardware. You're not managing all those servers. You're not paying for a full-time testing team.
Right. It all adds up.
It does. And this means you get a faster return in your investment.
ROI, everyone's favorite acronym.
And because everything's so much faster, you can get your products to market quicker.
Speed is key.
Always. Plus, you get better data integrity with TaaS.
Okay.
And you can access your testing environment from anywhere.
So I could be on a beach in Bali.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And still monitor your tests.
Not bad. Not bad at all. So there's a table in the research that compares traditional testing with TaaS. Can we go through that quickly?
Sure. So let's start with the test environment.
Okay.
Traditionally, you have to create and maintain your own test environment.
Manually.
Right. Which is a pain. With TaaS, it's all on demand. You just spin up what you need when you need it.
Way easier.
Way easier. Then there are the test assets.
Like scripts and data.
Exactly. Traditionally, you have to create all that manually.
Okay.
With TaaS, it's more dynamic. You can generate assets on the fly.
Makes sense. What about test data?
That's a big one. Traditionally, you have to generate and sanitize your own test data.
Which can be a huge hassle.
It can be. With TaaS, The data is often generated and sanitized for you.
Nice.
Right. Then there are the test tools. Traditionally, you have to buy your own tools, install them, manage them.
Another pain point.
With TaaS, the tools are usually included.
So no extra costs.
Nope.
Sweet.
And then there's business domain knowledge.
Ah, that's crucial.
It is. Traditionally, your testing team has to figure out all that domain knowledge on their own.
Which takes time and effort.
Exactly. With TaaS, the provider often brings that domain knowledge to the table.
So they're already experts in your field.
Often, yes.
That's a huge advantage.
Yep.
What about documentation?
Well, that's usually done manually in the traditional model,
Hmm.
but with TaaS, a lot of it can be generated automatically.
Saves even more time.
Exactly.
So basically, TaaS is like the automated, streamlined, super efficient version of traditional testing.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so let's recap what we've learned about TaaS today. It's essentially outsourcing your software testing to experts.
Right.
It's especially useful when you're lacking resources or specific skills, when you need an objective assessment, or when you want to save money and time. Exactly.
We talked about the demand and supply model,
Right.
the three main types of TaaS, functional, performance, and security, and then those cool features like self-service portals and cloud-based test labs.
And don't forget the cost savings.
Oh, yeah. Those are hard to ignore, 40 to 60%.
Pretty impressive.
And TaaS can also help you get your products out the door faster.
For sure.
So here's a question for everyone listening. What parts of your current software development process are slowing you down? Where are you hitting those bottlenecks? And could TaaS be the key to unlocking some serious efficiency and speed for your team?
It's definitely worth thinking about.
It is. It's time to rethink how we approach software testing in this fast-paced world.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.
See ya. Bye.